Trump finds out his driver is homeless. What he does next will melt your heart. It was Thursday evening, 6 p.m. The presidential motorcade glided through the bustling streets of New York City, a symphony of sirens and flashing lights parting the sea of onlookers. Inside the lead vehicle, President Donald Trump sat in contemplative silence, his gaze fixed on the familiar skyline of his hometown. The city had changed over the years, but its relentless energy remained the same. Beside him, his longtime driver, Jim Franklin, maneuvered through the traffic with practiced ease. Jim had been with the Trump family for over 2 decades, a steadfast presence behind the wheel. His graying temples and lined face spoke of years of dedicated service, always punctual, always discreet. As they approached Trump Tower, the president's eyes narrowed, catching sight of a group of homeless individuals huddled beneath an overpass. The juxtaposition of opulence and destitution was stark, a reminder of the city's unyielding contrasts. He turned to Jim, his voice tinged with curiosity. "Jim, it's heartbreaking to see so many people without shelter. What's being done about this?" Jim's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel, a flicker of hesitation crossing his face. He cleared his throat, choosing his words carefully. "Mr. President, the city has initiatives in place, but the problem persists. Affordable housing is scarce, and many shelters are at capacity." Trump nodded, his brow furrowing. The issue was complex, layered with bureaucratic red tape and systemic challenges. He sighed, leaning back into the plush leather seat. Later that evening, after a series of meetings and briefings, Trump found himself alone in his private quarters. The image of the homeless under the overpass lingered in his mind, unsettling and persistent. He reached for his phone, intending to delve deeper into the city's homelessness crisis. As he scrolled through reports and articles, a particular story caught his attention, a piece highlighting individuals who, despite full-time employment, found themselves without a place to call home. The term "working homeless" stood out, a paradox that gnawed at him. The next morning, during their drive to a charity event, Trump observed Jim through the rearview mirror. There was a weariness in his driver's eyes, a heaviness that hadn't been there before. An uncharacteristic impulse prompted him to speak. "Jim, you've been with us for years. How are things at home?" Jim's grip on the wheel tightened momentarily before he responded, his voice steady but subdued. "Doing well, sir. Thank you for asking." But Trump wasn't convinced. There was something unsaid, a tension that hung in the air. He decided to press further. "Jim, if there's anything you need, any way I can help, you let me know." Jim glanced in the mirror, meeting the president's gaze for a fleeting moment. A flicker of gratitude crossed his features before he nodded. "Appreciate that, Mr. President." The conversation ended there, but Trump's concern didn't. That evening, he instructed his personal assistant to discreetly gather information about Jim's situation. What he discovered was both shocking and disheartening. Despite his years of loyal service, Jim had been struggling financially. Medical bills from his late wife's illness had depleted his savings, and rising living costs had forced him out of his apartment. For the past 6 months, Jim had been living out of his car, maintaining appearances while his world quietly crumbled. The revelation struck Trump deeply. He prided himself on taking care of those who were loyal to him, and the thought of Jim enduring such hardship under his employ was unacceptable. The following morning, as Jim prepared the vehicle for the day's schedule, Trump approached him directly. "Jim, I need to talk to you." Jim straightened, sensing the gravity in the president's tone. "Yes, sir?" Trump placed a hand on Jim's shoulder, a rare gesture of personal connection. "I know about your situation. Why didn't you come to me?" Jim's eyes widened in surprise, a mixture of embarrassment and relief washing over him. "Sir, I didn't want to be a burden. You've got enough on your plate." Trump shook his head, his expression resolute. "Nonsense. You've been with me through thick and thin. It's my turn to be there for you." Over the next few days, quiet arrangements were made, not through announcements or aids, but through personal calls and handwritten notes. Trump ensured that Jim had a warm, well-furnished apartment near the park with sunlight that filtered through the windows in the morning. The rent was covered, no questions asked. A trust fund was established quietly, enough to steady the years ahead, not as charity, but as a recognition of loyalty lived without fanfare. There were no headlines, no photographs, no podium speeches, just a quiet evening, a week later, when Trump stepped into the car after a long meeting. Jim was waiting in the driver's seat, as always, but something had shifted. The weight behind his eyes was gone, replaced by a steadiness, a quiet kind of peace. Trump settled into his seat and looked at him in the mirror. "How's the new place?" he asked, voice low. Jim paused, then smiled, a small, sincere smile that held years behind it. "It's quiet, sir. I can hear the birds in the morning." Trump gave a slow nod, then turned to look out the window. For a long while, neither man spoke. As the motorcade pulled into motion, the city passed by in silence. The skyline gleamed against a dusky sky, indifferent and eternal. But inside the car, there was something steady and human, a shared understanding that neither title nor paycheck could buy. In that soft, unspoken moment, the measure of compassion revealed itself, not in grand gestures, but in seeing someone fully and quietly deciding to act. Sometimes the most powerful change begins in silence and moves forward on the wheels of a simple ride home. Where are you listening from today? Like, subscribe, and share. More stories, quietly human, always true, coming soon.